Alright. Do a little bit of wonder. So, we left off with Augie. He got hearing aids. And it was kind of like a headband thing, but most of it was hidden by his hair, so it worked out fine. But he can hear a lot better, which is awesome. Yeah. A couple days after spring break ended, Mom found out that Via had not told her about a school play that was happening at her high school the next week, and Mom was mad. Mom doesn't really get mad that much, though Dad would disagree, but she was really mad at Via for that. She and Via got into a huge fight. I could hear them yelling at each other in Via's room. My bionic lobot ears could hear Mom saying, "But what is it with you lately, Via? You're moody and taciturn and secretive." "What is so wrong with my not telling you about a stupid play?" Via practically screamed. "I don't even have a speaking part in it." "Well, your boyfriend does. Don't you think we would want to see him?" "No, actually, I don't," she replied. "Stop screaming," said Mom. "You scream first," said Via. "Just leave me alone, okay? You've been really good about leaving me alone my whole life. So why choose high school to suddenly be interested? I have no idea." Sorry. Then I don't know what Mom answered, because it all got very quiet, and even my bionic lobot ears could not pick up the signal. By dinner, they seemed to have made up. Dad was working late, and Daisy was sleeping. She'd thrown up a lot earlier in the day, and Mom made an appointment to take her to the vet the next morning. I'm gonna sneeze again. Sorry. The three of us were sitting down, and no one was talking. Finally, I said, "So, are we going to see Justin in a play?" Via did not answer, but looked down at her plate. "You know, Augie," said Mom quietly, I hadn't realized what play it was, and it really isn't something that would be interesting to kids your age." "So I'm not invited?" I said, looking at Via. "I didn't say that," said Mom. "It's just I don't think it's something you would enjoy." "You'd get totally bored," said Via, like she was accusing me of something. "Are you and Dad going?" I asked. "Dad will go," said Mom. "I'll stay home with you." "What?" Via asked Mom. "Oh, great. So you're going to punish me for being honest by not going?" "You didn't want us to go in the first place, remember?" answered Mom. "Yeah, but now that you know about it, of course I want you to go," said Via. "Well, I've got to weigh everyone's feelings here, Via," said Mom. "What are you two talking about?" I asked. "Nothing," they both snapped at the same time. "Just something about Via's school that has nothing to do with you," said Mom. "You're lying," I said. "Excuse me?" said Mom, kind of shocked. Even Via looked surprised. "I said you're lying." "You're lying," I screamed at Via, getting up. "You're both lying. You're both lying to my face." "Sit down, Augie," said Mom. I looked at Via. "You think I don't know what's going on?" I asked. "You just don't want your brand new fancy high school friends to know that your brother is like me." "Augie," yelled Mom, "that's not true." "Stop lying to me, Mom," I shrieked. "Stop treating me like a baby. I know what's going on." I ran down the hallway to my room and slammed the door behind me so hard that I actually heard little pieces of the wall crumble inside the door frame. Then I plopped onto my bed and pulled the covers up on top of me. I threw my pillows over my disgusting face and then piled all my stuffed animals on top of the pillows like I was inside a little cave. If I could walk around with a pillow over my face all the time, I would. I don't even know how I got so mad. I wasn't really mad at the beginning of dinner, and I wasn't even sad. But then all of a sudden it just kind of exploded out of me. I knew Via didn't want me to go to her play, and I knew why. I figured Mom would follow me into my room right away, but she didn't. I wanted her to find me inside my cave of stuffed animals, so I waited a little more. But even after 10 minutes, she still didn't come in after me. I was pretty surprised. She always checks on me when I'm in my room upset about something. I pictured Mom and Via talking about me in the kitchen. I figured Via was feeling really, really bad. I pictured Mom totally laying on the guilt, and Dad would be mad at her when he came home too. I made a little hole through the pile of pillows and stuffed animals and peeked at the clock on the wall. Half an hour had passed and Mom still hadn't come into my room. I tried to listen for the sounds in the other rooms. Were they still having dinner? What was going on? Finally the door opened. It was Via. She didn't even bother coming over to the bed, and she didn't come in softly like I thought she would. She came in quickly. "Augie," said Via, "come on. Mom needs to talk to you." "I'm not apologizing," I said. "This isn't about you," she yelled. "Not everything in the world is about you, Augie. Now hurry up. Daisy's sick. Mom's taking her to the emergency vet. Come say goodbye." I pushed the pillows off my face and looked at her. That's when I saw that she was crying. "What do you mean goodbye?" "Come on," she said, holding out her hand. I took it and followed her down the hall to the kitchen. Daisy was lying down sideways on the floor with her legs straight out in front of her. She was panting a lot like she'd been running in the park. Mom was kneeling beside her, stroking the top of her head. What happened? I asked. She just started whimpering all of a sudden, said Via, kneeling down next to Mom. I looked down at Mom, who was crying too. I'm taking her to the animal hospital downtown, she said. The taxi's coming to pick me up. Well, the vet'll make her better, right? I asked. Mom looked at me. I hope so, she said quietly, but I honestly don't know. Of course he will, I said. Daisy's been sick a lot lately, Augie, and she's old. But they can fix her, I said, looking at Via to agree with me, but Via wouldn't look up. Mom's lips were trembling. I think it might be time that we say goodbye to Daisy, Augie. I'm sorry. No, I said. We don't want her to suffer, Augie, said Mom. The phone rang and Via picked it up. Okay, thanks, she said and hung up. The taxi's outside, she said, wiping the tears with the back of her hands. Okay, Augie, open the door for me, Kay, said Mom, picking up Daisy very gently like she was a huge, droopy baby. Please, Mom, no, I cried, putting myself in front of the door. Please, Augie, said Mom. She's very heavy. What about Dad? I asked. He's meeting me at the vet, she said. He doesn't want Daisy to suffer either, Augie. Via moved me away from the door and held it open for Mom. My cell phone's on if you need anything, Mom said to Via. Can you cover her with the blanket? Via nodded, but she was crying hysterically now. Say goodbye to Daisy, kids, Mom said, tears streaming down her face. I love you, Daisy, Via said, kissing her on the nose. I love you so much. Bye, little girlie, I whispered into Daisy's ear. I love you. Mom carried Daisy down the stoop. The taxi driver had opened the back door and we watched her get in. Just before she closed the door, Mom looked up at us standing by the entrance to the building and she gave a little wave. I don't think I've ever seen her look sadder. I love you, Mom, said Via. I love you, Mom, I said as well. I'm sorry, Mom. She blew us a kiss and closed the door. We watched the car leave, and then Via closed the door. She looked at me a second, and then she hugged me very, very tight while we both cried a million tears. Justin came over about half an hour later. He gave me a big hug and said, I'm sorry, Augie. We all sat down in the living room, not saying anything. For some reason, Via and I had taken all of Daisy's toys from around the house and put them in a little pile on the coffee table. Now we just stared at the pile. She really is the greatest dog in the world, said Via. I know, said Justin. She just started whimpering, like all of a sudden? I asked. Via nodded, like 2 seconds after you left the table. Mom was going to go after you, but Daisy just started, like, whimpering. Like how? I asked. Just whimpering. I don't know how to explain it, said Via. Like a howl? I asked. Augie, like whimpering, she answered impatiently. She just started moaning like something was really hurting her, and she was panting like crazy. Then she just kind of plopped down, and Mom went over and tried to pick her up. And whatever, she was obviously hurting. She bit Mom. What? I asked. When Mom tried to touch her stomach, Daisy bit her hand. Daisy never bites anybody. She wasn't herself, said Justin. She was obviously in pain. Daddy was right, said Via. We shouldn't have let her get this bad. What do you mean? I asked. He knew she was sick? Augie, Mom's taken her to the vet like 3 times in the last 2 months. She's been throwing up left and right. Haven't you noticed? But I didn't know she was like sick. Via didn't say anything, but she put her arm around my shoulders and pulled me closer to her. I started to cry again. I'm sorry, Augie, she said softly. I'm really sorry about everything, okay? Do you forgive me? You know how much I love you, right? I nodded. Somehow the fight didn't seem to matter anymore. Was Mom bleeding? I asked. It was just a nip, said Via. Right here, she said, pointing to the bottom of her thumb. Did it hurt her? No, she's okay, Augie. Mom's fine. Mom and Dad came home 2 hours later. We knew the second they opened the door and Daisy wasn't with them that Daisy was gone. We all sat down in the living room around the pile of Daisy's toys. Dad told us what happened at the animal hospital. How the vet took Daisy for some x-rays and blood tests, then came back and told them she had a huge mass in her stomach. She was having trouble breathing. Mom and Dad did not want her to suffer, so Dad picked her up in his arms like he always liked to do, with her legs straight up in the air, and he and Mom kissed her goodbye over and over again and whispered to her while the vet put the needle into her leg. And then after about a minute, she died in Dad's arms. It was so peaceful, Dad said. She wasn't in any pain at all, like she was just going to sleep. A couple of times while he talked, Dad's voice got trembly and he cleared his throat. I've never seen Dad cry before, but I saw him cry tonight. I had gone into Mom and Dad's bedroom looking for Mom to put me to bed, but saw Dad sitting on the edge of the bed taking off his socks. His back was to the door, so he didn't know I was there. At first I thought he was laughing because his shoulders were shaking, but then he put his palms to his eyes and I realized he was crying. It was the quietest crying I'd ever heard before, like a whisper. I was going to go over to him, but then I thought maybe he was whisper crying because he didn't want me or anyone else to hear him. So I walked out and went to Via's room, and I saw Mom lying next to her on the bed, and Mom was whispering to Via, who was crying. So I went to my bed and put on my pajamas without anyone telling me to, and put the nightlight on, and turned the light off, and crawled into the little mountain of stuffed animals I had left on my bed earlier. It felt like that all that happened was a million years ago. I took my hearing aids off and put them on the night table, and pulled the covers up to my ears, and imagined Daisy snuggling with me, her big wet tongue licking my face all over like it was her favorite face in the world. And that's how I fell asleep. I woke up later on, and it was still dark. I got out of bed and walked into Mom and Dad's bedroom. "Mom," I whispered. It was completely dark, so I couldn't see her eyes open. "Mom." "Are you okay?" she asked groggily. "Can I sleep in here?" Mom scooted over towards Dad's side of the bed, and I snuggled up to her. "Is your hand okay? Via told me Daisy bit you." "It was only a nip," she whispered in my ear. "Mom," I started crying. "I'm sorry about what I said." "There's nothing to be sorry about," she said, so quietly I could barely hear her. She was rubbing the side of her face against mine. "Is Via ashamed of me?" "No, honey, no. You know she's not. She's just adjusting to a new school. It's not easy." "Yeah, I know. I know you know," she said. "I'm sorry I called you a liar." "Go to sleep, sweet boy. I love you." "I love you too, Mom." "Good night." "Mom, is Daisy with Grandma now?" "I think so." "Are they in heaven?" I asked. "Yes," said Mom. "Do people look the same when they go to heaven?" "I don't know," said Mom. "Then how do people recognize each other?" "I don't know, sweetie." She sounded tired. "They just feel it. You don't need your eyes to love, right? You just feel it inside you. That's how it is in heaven. It's just love, and no one forgets who they love." "Now go to sleep. It's late, and I'm very tired." But I couldn't go to sleep, even after I knew she had fallen asleep. I could hear Dad sleeping too, and I imagined I could hear Via down the hall. And I wondered if Daisy was sleeping in heaven right now. And if she was sleeping, was she dreaming about us? And I wondered how it would feel to be in heaven someday and not have my face matter anymore, just like it never ever mattered to Daisy. Via brought home 3 tickets to her school play a few days after Daisy died. We never mentioned the fight we had over dinner again. On the night of the play, right before she and Justin were leaving to get to their school early, she gave me a big hug and told me she loved me and she was proud to be my sister. This was the first time in Via's new school. It was much bigger than her old school, and 1,000 times bigger than my school. More hallways, more room for people. The only really bad thing was my bionic Lobot hearing aids was the fact that I couldn't wear a baseball cap anymore. In situations like these, baseball caps came in real handy. Sometimes I wish I could still get away with wearing that old astronaut helmet I used to wear when I was little. Believe it or not, people would think seeing a kid in an astronaut helmet was a lot less weird than seeing my face. Anyway, I kept my head down as I walked right behind Mom through the bright hallways. Maggie wants to come help. Hi, Mags. Come here. You're kind of in the way. Oh, goodness. You could just stay. No, all right. There we go. We followed the crowd to the auditorium, where students handed out programs at the front entrance. We found seats in the 5th row close to the middle. As soon as we sat down, Mom started looking inside her pocketbook. "I can't believe I forgot my glasses," she said. Dad shook his head. Mom was always forgetting her glasses, or her keys, or something else. "You want to move closer?" asked Dad. Mom squinted at the stage. "No, I can see okay." "Speak now or forever hold your peace," said Dad. "I'm fine," answered Mom. "Look, there's Justin," I said to Dad, pointing out Justin's picture in the program. "That's a nice picture of him," said Dad. "How come there's no picture of Via?" "She's an understudy," said Mom. "But look, here's her name." "Why do they call it an understudy?" "Wow, look at Miranda's picture," Mom said to Dad. "I don't think I would have recognized her." "Why do they call it an understudy?" I asked again. "It's what they call someone who replaces an actor if he can't perform for some reason," answered Mom. "Did you hear Martin's getting remarried?" Dad said to Mom. "Are you kidding me?" Mom answered like she was surprised. "Who's Martin?" I asked. "Miranda's father," Mom answered. and then she turned to Dad. Who told you? I ran into Miranda's mother in the subway. She's not happy about it. He has a new baby on the way and everything. Wow, said Mom, shaking her head. What are you guys talking about? I asked. Nothing, answered Dad. But why do they call it an understudy? I don't know, Augie Doggy, Dad answered. Maybe because the actors kind of study under the main actors or something. I don't really know. I was going to say something else, but then the lights went down. The audience got very quiet very quickly. Dad, can you please not call me Augie Doggy anymore? Dad smiled and nodded and gave me a thumbs up. The play started, the curtain opened, the stage was completely empty except for Justin, who was sitting on an old rickety chair, tuning his fiddle. He was wearing an old-fashioned type of suit and a straw hat. This play is called Our Town, he said to the audience. It was written by Thornton Wilder, produced and directed by Philip Davenport. The name of the town is Grover's Corners, New Hampshire, just across the Massachusetts line. Latitude 42 degrees, 40 minutes. Longitude 70 degrees, 37 minutes. The first act shows a day in our town. The day is May 7th, 1901. The time is just before dawn. I knew right then and there I was going to like the play. It wasn't like the other school plays I'd been to, like The Wizard of Oz or Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. No, this was a grown-up play. Or at least it felt like it, and I felt smart sitting there watching it. A little later in the play, a character named Mrs. Webb calls out for her daughter Emily. I knew from the program that was the part Miranda was playing, so I leaned forward to get a better look at her. That's Miranda, Mom whispered to me, squinting at the stage when Emily walked out. She looks really different. It's because it's not Miranda, I whispered. It's Via. Oh my gosh, said Mom, lurching forward in her seat. Shh, said Dad. It's Via, Mom whispered to him. I know, whispered Dad, smiling. Shh. The play was so amazing. I don't want to give away the ending, but it's the kind of ending that makes people in the audience teary. Mom totally lost it when Via, as Emily, said, Goodbye, goodbye, my world. Goodbye, Grover's Corners, Mama, Papa. Goodbye to clocks ticking and Mama's sunflowers, and food and coffee, and new iron dresses and hot baths, and sleeping and waking up. Oh, Earth, you're too wonderful for anybody to realize you. Via was actually crying when she was saying this, like real tears. I could see them rolling down her cheeks. It was totally awesome. After the curtain closed, everyone in the audience started clapping. Then the actors came out one by one. Via and Justin were the last ones out, and when they appeared, the whole audience rose to their feet. Bravo! I heard Dad yelling through his hands. Why is everyone getting up? I asked. It's called a standing ovation, said Mom, getting up. So I got up and clapped and clapped. I clapped until my hands hurt. For a second, I imagined how cool it would be to be Via and Justin, having all these people standing up and cheering for them. I think there should be a rule that everyone in the world should get a standing ovation at least once in their lives. Finally, after I don't know how many minutes, the line of actors on stage stepped back and the curtain closed in front of them. The clapping stopped and the lights went up, and the audience started getting up to leave. Mom, Dad, and me made our way backstage. Crowds of people were congratulating the performers, surrounding them, patting them on the back. We saw Via and Justin at the center of the crowd, smiling at everyone, laughing and talking. Via! Shouted Dad, waving as he made his way through the crowd. When he got close enough, he hugged her and lifted her off the floor. You were amazing, sweetheart, he said. Oh my goodness, Via, Mom was screaming with excitement. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness. She was hugging Via so hard I thought Via would suffocate, but Via was laughing. You were brilliant, said Dad. Brilliant, repeated Mom, kind of nodding and shaking her head at the same time. And you, Justin, said Dad, shaking Justin's hand and giving him a hug at the same time. You were fantastic. Fantastic, Mom repeated. She was honestly so emotional she could barely talk. What a shock to see you up there, Via, said Dad. Mom didn't even recognize you at first, I said. I didn't recognize you, Mom repeated, her hand over her mouth. Miranda got sick right before the show started, said Via, out of breath. There wasn't even time to make up an announcement. I have to say she looked kind of strange because she was wearing all this makeup and I'd never seen her look like that before. And you just stepped in there at the last minute, said Dad. Wow. She was amazing, wasn't she, said Justin. There wasn't a dry eye in the audience, said Dad. Is Miranda okay? I asked, but no one heard me. At that moment, a man who I think was their teacher came over to Justin and Via, clapping his hands. Bravo, Olivia and Justin. I flubbed a couple lines, said Via. But you got through it, said the man, smiling ear to ear. Mr. Davenport, these are my parents, said Via. You must be so proud of your girl, he said, shaking their hands. We are. And this is my little brother August, said Via. He looked like he was about to say something, but suddenly froze when he looked at me. "Mr. D," said Justin, pulling him by the arm, "come meet my mom." Via was about to say something to me, but then someone else came over and started talking to her, and before I knew it, I was kind of alone in the crowd. I mean, I knew where Mom and Dad were, but there were so many people around, and people kept bumping into me, spinning me around a bit, giving me that 1-2 look, which made me feel kind of bad. I don't know if it was because I was feeling hot or something, but I kind of started to get dizzy. People's faces were blurring in my head, and their voices were so loud it was almost hurting my ears. I tried to turn the volume down on my low-bought ears, but I got confused and turned them louder at first, which kind of shocked me, and then I looked up and I didn't see Mom or Dad or Via anywhere. "Via?" I called out. I started pushing through the crowd. "Mom?" I really couldn't see anything but people's stomachs and ties all around me. "Mom?" Suddenly, someone picked me up from behind. "Look who's here," said a familiar voice, hugging me tight. I thought it was Via at first, but when I turned around, I was completely surprised. "Hey, Major Tom." "Miranda," I answered, and I gave her the tightest hug I could give. So we're at Miranda's point of view. It's not very long, so I think I will read that for this video, and then we'll call it good for today. So this is Miranda now. Remember, Via's friend, or kind of ex-friend. "My parents got divorced the summer before 9th grade. My father was with someone else right away. In fact, though my mom never said so, I think that was the reason they may have gotten divorced. After the divorce, I hardly ever saw my dad, and my mother acted stranger than ever. It's not that she was unstable or anything, just distant, remote. My mom is the kind of person who has a happy face for the rest of the world, but not a lot left over for me. She's never talked to me much, not about her feelings or her life. I don't know much about what she was like when she was my age. I don't know much about the things she liked or didn't like. The few times she mentioned her own parents, who I've never met, it was mostly about how she wanted to get as far away from them as she could, once she'd grown up. She never told me why. I asked a few times, but she would pretend she didn't hear me. I didn't want to go to summer camp that summer. I had wanted to stay with her, to help her through the divorce, but she insisted I go. I figured she wanted some alone time, so I gave it to her. Camp was awful. I hated it. I thought it would be better being a junior counselor, but it wasn't. No one I knew from the previous year had come back, so I didn't know anybody, not a single person. I'm not even sure why, but I started playing this little make-believe game with the girls in my camp. They'd ask me stuff about myself, and I'd make things up. My parents are in Europe, I would tell them. I live in a huge townhouse on the nicest street in North River Heights. I have a dog named Daisy. Then one day I blurted out that I had a little brother who was deformed. I have absolutely no idea why I said it. It just seemed like an interesting thing to say. And of course the reaction I got from the little girls in the bungalow was dramatic. "Really?" they asked. "So sorry, that must be tough." I regretted saying this the moment it escaped my lips, of course. I felt like such a fake. If Via ever found out, I thought, she'd think I was such a weirdo, and I felt like a weirdo. But I have to admit, there was a part of me that felt a little entitled to the lie. I've known August since he was 6. I've watched him grow up. I've played with him. I've watched all 6 episodes of Star Wars with him, so I could talk to him about the aliens and bounty hunters and all that. I'm the one that gave him the astronaut helmet he wouldn't take off for 2 years. I mean, I've kind of earned the right to think of him as my little brother. And the strangest thing is that these lies I told, these fictions, did wonders for my popularity. The other junior counselors heard it from the campers, and they were all over it. Never in my life have I ever been considered one of the popular girls in anything. But that summer in camp, for whatever reason, I was the girl everybody wanted to hang out with. Even the girls in Bungalow 32 were totally into it. These were the girls at the top of the food chain. They said they liked my hair, though they changed it. They said they liked the way I did my makeup, though they changed that too. They showed me how to turn my t-shirts into tank tops. We snuck out late and hung out in the woods. When I got home from camp, I called Ella right away to make plans with her. I don't know why I didn't call Via. I guess I just didn't feel like talking about stuff with her. She would have asked me about my parents and about camp. Ella never really asked me about those things. She was an easier friend to have in that way. She wasn't serious like Via. She was fun. She thought it was cool when I dyed my hair pink. She wanted to hear all about those trips to the woods. I hardly saw Via at school this year, and when I did, it was awkward. It felt like she was judging me. I knew she didn't like my new look. I knew she didn't like the group of friends that I was hanging out with. I didn't much like hers. We never actually argued. We just drifted away. Ella and I would talk about her behind her back to each other. She's such a prude, she's this, she's that, we would say. We knew we were being mean, but it was easier to ice her out if we pretended she had done something to us. So not good. And there's Maggie in the background. The truth is, she hadn't changed at all. We had. We'd become these other people, and she was still the person she'd always been. That annoyed me so much, and I didn't know why. Once in a while, I would look to see where she was sitting in the lunchroom or check the elective list to see what she'd signed up for. But except for a few nods in the hallway and an occasional hello, we never really spoke to each other. I noticed Justin about halfway through the school year. I hadn't noticed him at all before, other than that he was this skinny dude with thick glasses and long hair who carried a violin everywhere. Then one day I saw him in front of the school with his arm around Via. "So Via has a boyfriend," I said to Ella. I don't know why it surprised me that she'd have one. Out of the three of us, she was really pretty. I had a boyfriend too, named Zach. When I told him I was choosing the theater elective, he shook his head and said, "Careful you don't turn into a drama geek." Not the most sympathetic dude in the world. Very high up on the popularity chain, though. I wasn't planning on taking theater at first. Then I saw Via's name on the sign-up sheet and just wrote my name down on the list. I don't even know why. We managed to avoid one another throughout most of the semester, like we didn't even know each other. Then one day I got to theater class a little early, and Davenport asked me to run off additional copies of the play he was planning on having us do for the spring production, The Elephant Man. I'd heard about it, but I didn't really know what it was about, so I started reading through the pages while I was waiting for the Xerox machine. It was about a man who lived more than 100 years ago named John Merrick, who was deformed. "We can't do this play, Mr. Davenport," I told him when I got back to class, and then I told him why. I told him my little brother had a birth defect, and he has a deformed face, and this play would hit too close to home for him. He seemed annoyed and a little unsympathetic, but I kind of said that my parents would have a real issue with the school doing this play, so he ended up switching to our town. I think I went for the role of Emily because I knew Via was going for it too. It never occurred to me that I would beat her for the role. Okay, so just a quick note, popularity, not really a good thing most of the time. It's usually a lot of bad choices that come with that. So being popular really isn't something that you should try to do, because then you don't really act like yourself, and that's not ever good either. One of the most things I miss the most about Via's friendship is her family. I loved her mom and dad. They were always so welcoming and nice to me. I knew they loved their kids more than anything, and I always felt safe around them, safer than anywhere else in the world. How pathetic that I felt safer in someone else's house than my own, right? And of course I loved Augie. I was never afraid of him. Even when I was little, I had friends that couldn't believe I'd ever go over to Via's house. "His face creeps me out," they would say. "Well, that's dumb," I told them. "Augie's face isn't so bad once you get used to it." I called Via's house once just to say hello to Augie. Maybe part of me was hoping Via would answer. "Hey, Major Tom," I said, using my nickname for him. "Miranda." He sounded so happy to hear my voice, it actually kind of took me by oh my gosh, let me restart that. "Miranda." He sounded so happy to hear my voice, it actually kind of took me by surprise. "I'm going to a regular school now," he told me excitedly. "Really?" I asked. "Wow." I was completely shocked. I guess I never thought he'd go to a regular school. His parents have always been so protective of him. I guess I thought he'd always be that little kid in the astronaut helmet I gave him. Talking to him, I could tell he had no idea that Via and I weren't friends anymore. "It's different in high school," I explained to him. "You end up hanging out with lots of different people." "I have some friends in my new school," he told me. "A kid named Jack and a girl named Summer." "That's awesome, Augie," I told him. "Well, I was just calling to tell you I miss you, and I hope you're having a good school year. Feel free to call me whenever you want, okay? You know I love you always." "Love you too, Miranda," he said. "Say hi to Via for me. Tell her I miss her." "I will," he said. "Bye." Neither my mom nor my father could come see the play on opening night. My mom because she had this thing at work, and my dad because his new wife is going to have her baby any second now, and he had to be on call. Zach couldn't come to opening night either. He had a volleyball game against Collegiate he couldn't miss. In fact, he had wanted me to miss the opening night so I could come cheer him on. My friends all went to the game, of course, because all of their friends were playing as well. Even Ella didn't come to opening night. Given a choice, she chose the crowd. So on opening night, no one that was remotely close to me was even there. And the thing is, I realized in my third or fourth rehearsal that I was good at this acting thing. I felt the part, I understood the words I spoke, I could read the lines as if they were coming from my brain and my heart. And on opening night, I can honestly say I knew I was going to be more than good. I was going to be great. I was going to be extraordinary. But there would be no one there to see me. We were all backstage, nervously running through our lines in our heads. I peeked through the curtain at the people taking their seats in the auditorium, and that's when I saw Augie walking down the aisle with Isabel and Nate, their parents. They took 3 seats in the 5th row near the middle. Augie was wearing a bow tie, looking around excitedly. He'd grown up a bit since I'd last seen him, almost a year ago. His hair was shorter, and he was wearing some kind of hearing aid now. His face had not changed a bit. Davenport was running through some last-minute changes with the set decorator. I saw Justin pacing off stage left, mumbling his lines nervously. "Mr. Davenport," I said, surprising myself as I spoke. "I'm sorry, but I can't go on tonight." Mr. Davenport turned around slowly. "What?" he asked. "I'm sorry," I said. "Are you kidding?" he asked. I muttered, looking down. "I don't feel well. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm going to throw up." It was a lie, but I told him anyway. "It's just last-minute jitters," he said. "No," I said. "I can't do it. I'm telling you." Mr. Davenport looked furious. "Miranda, this is outrageous." "I'm sorry," I said. He took a deep breath like he was trying to restrain himself. To be truthful, I thought he looked like he was going to explode. His forehead turned bright pink. "Miranda, this is absolutely unacceptable. Now go take a few deep breaths and—" "I'm not going on," I said loudly, and the tears came to my eyes fairly easily. "Fine," he said, not looking at me. Then he turned to a kid named David, who was the set decorator. "Go find Olivia in the lighting booth. Tell her she's filling in for Miranda tonight." "What?" said David, who wasn't very swift. "Go!" Mr. Davenport shouted in his face. "Now!" The other kids had caught on to what was happening and gathered around. "What's going on?" asked Justin. "Last-minute change of plans," said Davenport. "Miranda doesn't feel well." "I feel sick," I said, trying to sound sick. "So why are you still here?" Mr. Davenport said to me angrily. "Stop talking, take off your costume, and give it to Olivia, okay? Come on, everybody, let's go, go, go!" I ran backstage to the dressing room as quickly as I could, and 2 seconds later, there was a knock, and Via opened the door. "What is going on?" she asked. "Hurry up and put this on," I said, handing her the dress. "You're sick?" "Yeah, hurry up." Via looked stunned. She changed into the costume, and I zipped it up for her. Luckily, Emily Webb didn't go on until 10 minutes into the play, so the girl handling her hair and makeup had time to put Via's hair up in a twist and do a quick makeup job. I'd never seen Via with a lot of makeup, but she looked like a model. "I'm not even sure I'll remember my lines," Via said, looking at herself in the mirror. "Or your lines." "You'll do great," I told her. She looked at me in the mirror. "Why are you doing this for Miranda?" "Olivia!" It was Mr. Davenport. Hush shouting from the door. "You're on in 2 minutes. It's now or never." Via followed him out the door, so I never got the chance to answer her question. I don't know what I would have said anyway. I wasn't sure what the answer was. I watched the rest of the play from the wings just off stage, next to Davenport. Justin was amazing, and Via, in that heartbreaking last scene, was awesome. There was one line she flubbed a little bit, but Justin covered for her, and no one in the audience even noticed. I heard Davenport muttering under his breath, "Good, good, good." He was more nervous than all the students put together. The actors, the set decorators, the lighting team, the guy handling the curtain. Davenport was a wreck, frankly. The only time I felt any regret, if you could even call it that, was at the end of the play when everyone went out for their curtain calls. Via and Justin were the last of the actors walking out on stage, and the audience rose to their feet when they took their bows. That, I admit, was a little bittersweet for me. But just a few minutes later, I saw Nate and Isabel and Augie make their way backstage, and they all seemed so happy. Everyone was congratulating the actors, patting them on the back. It was that crazy backstage theater mayhem where sweaty actors stand euphoric while people come worship them for a few seconds. In that crush of people, I noticed Augie looking kind of lost. I cut through the crowd as fast as I could and came up behind him. "Hey, Major Tom." I can't say why I was so happy to see August again after so long, or how good it felt when he hugged me. "I can't believe how big you've gotten," I said to him. "I thought you were going to be in the play," he said. "I wasn't up to it," I said, "but Via was great, don't you think?" He nodded. 2 seconds later, Isabel found us. "Miranda," she said happily, giving me a kiss on the cheek. And then to August. "Don't ever disappear like that," she said. "You're the one who disappeared," August answered back. "How are you feeling?" Isabel asked me. "Via told us you got sick." "I feel a lot better," I answered. "Is your mom here?" Isabel asked. No, she had work stuff, so it's actually not a big deal for me, I said truthfully. We have 2 more shows anyway, though I don't think I'll be as good an Emily as Via was tonight. Nate came over and we had basically the same exact conversation. Then Isabel said, Look, we're going to have a late night dinner to celebrate the show. Are you feeling up to joining us? We'd love to have you. Oh, no, I started to say. Please, August interrupted. I should go home, I said. We insist, said Via's dad. By now, Via and Justin had come over with Justin's mom, and Via put her arm around me. You're definitely coming, Via said, smiling her old smile at me. They started leading me out of the crowd, and I have to admit, for the first time in a very, very long time, I felt absolutely happy. All right, so next when we come back will be August's point of view. I will try to do a couple more Wonder videos this week. If I don't get them done by Friday, I will keep doing them if you want to keep checking Google Classroom for them.